how this turns out. But welcome to my little 1-hour workshop here, Overcoming Deprivation, Overeating, and Triggers. My name is Jen. I'll introduce myself here formally in a second, but really glad that you're here and willing to go a little deep with me today, as I know this isn't the sexiest topic of them all. But let's just go over the hour. It may not take us the full time, or I might start rambling and you'll get a whole lot of me today. But I'll tell you a little bit about who I am and why you may or may not want to listen to me. Am I just another diet guru who's going to start preaching a bunch of stuff to you, or can you take away what I'm saying? Hopefully there are a couple things that'll resonate with you today. But I want to acknowledge the diet snowball effect society's created for us. While it's not entirely our fault, why we're not broken, but it has created a bit of a cycle that I don't know about you guys, but I'm exhausted of the feelings of deprivation or needing to deprive ourselves to be successful in losing weight. That leads to overeating, and obviously starts with a trigger that then leads to overeating. So if you end up joining us, you can use the chat box to ask any questions that you might have, and certainly we'll jump into things. So anyway, this is me, guys. I'm Jen Pendleton. I have struggled with obesity for 20 years. It's been really a lifelong just depressed, not feeling great about myself, feeling completely out of control. A chronic yo-yo dieter, an exerciser, probably more of a dieter than an exerciser, formerly anyway. My eating's very disordered, secretive, all of those types of things. I was, for the most part, sedentary when I wasn't crash dieting, pre-diabetic and pre-hypertensive. I was just about everything, dealing with metabolic syndrome. And again, just lost when it came to food and just wanted to eat all the time. Now that I've lost 115 pounds, I'm really kind of mad as hell. And a little prayer I said to the universe a long time ago was that I just wanted someone who understood to help me. And so I want to help people now. It's all I want to do, and really right some wrongs and help people on their own path instead of all of these other crazy fads that are out there. I'm now a freaking CrossFit level 2 trainer. I have a USA weightlifting certification, and I have the level 1 precision nutrition certification, in addition to a bachelor's degree from Ball State in communications, and also a minor in counseling psychology. So that all led me to found 51 Bridges Nutrition, where I do one-on-one coaching with people that want to build their own journeys to health and wellness. So that all being said, let's get to our workshop today. So essentially, society has created this diet snowball effect, I like to call it. Can you relate to the woman there? Asking for help, what the heck do I need to do? Some diets having conflicting information and all these different things, you can really feel paralyzed. And so as kids, though, I want us all to remember that at some point, we paid attention to our natural hunger cues. I just turned 50 this year, so I remember being a kid in the 70s where we went out to play during the day, and then we were told to come home when the street lights came on. And I remember always being bummed out because I was like, oh gosh, I got to eat dinner, and I probably hadn't eaten anything all day. So as kids, food was not in control of me the way that it feels now. And so at some point, we all had those natural hunger cues. And so then it gets to the point where when we get a little older, all of a sudden we get these mixed messages. Maybe for the first time we were told to clean our plates and eat everything that was on our plate, even if we weren't hungry. Or we were maybe told, like me in the 3rd grade, trying on bathing suits that maybe were not the tiniest little things anymore. Or I have some clients that were raised by Dexatrim and Weight Watchers mothers that were always on the scale, and the number on the scale mattered, and became a level of self-worth that we all had. And that was maybe passed down to some of us. And these mixed message that all of a sudden our own hunger cues are not correct, but the answer is diets and restriction. And so that's just created this whole effect that is not healthy for us. So this is what really happens. So when we diet, we end up depriving. And so that can cause in and of itself some food obsession. I don't know about you guys, but I often obsess with the things that I can't have. And then that's where we've come up with these labels. I've got clients that hop on the phone with me and they say, Jen, I've been so bad. I was so bad this week. And I really hate hearing that, because at some point we started tying these moralistic words, good and bad, clean and dirty, all these different things with food. And in all reality, it's just food. But what happens is we can only deprive for so long. So then we cave and we overeat. So we're either binging, we're mindlessly eating, we're boredom eating, we're happy eating, you name it. It leads us down a path most of us don't want to go down. And then the guilt and shame sets in, and then we think something is wrong with us. I internalized so much of this. I felt no one else was struggling with this. Like, why was this my issue? What was going on with me? And so that's when I have a lot of bad negative self-talk that ensued. And I just started to believe that I was a diet failure. I failed at diets. I was never going to be a healthy weight. And when you tell yourself that, you're absolutely never going to achieve anything. So I just continued to seek outside sources to help me, because apparently I didn't have control. I needed to search for a better diet, a better solution to help me. And then the cycle would just start all over again. And I don't know about you guys, but it's exhausting. It is really exhausting. And the sad fact is that it's really not about finding the best diet, the better diet, any of those things. I'm here to say that all of these diets work. I pretty much lost 30 to 40 pounds over the years trying a lot of these diets I have listed here. I did keto, or I guess I really did low carb. I never really did true keto. But low carb, paleo, intermittent fasting. I know some people that are doing really successful at the intermittent fasting, Nutrisystem, Weight Watchers, all of these different types of diets, they actually all work because they're putting us into some sort of caloric deficit if they're followed. So of course, we're going to lose weight for a period of time. And that's my story. I could lose 30 or 40 pounds like no one's business, but the problem is they aren't sustainable. They aren't going to work. So the fad diet isn't what ends the food battle for you. Empowering yourself with own solutions to kind of overcome, I don't even want to call them bad habits, but the things that we know are likely causing you to gain. Like, it was no surprise that I was grossly overeating and binging food, and that for me to get healthy, those things needed to stop. So it really wasn't about which one of these, none of these diets listed here were going to help me fix that. So I also just had to get in the right frame of mind and understanding. And that's what I couldn't find. I couldn't find anyone that could help me with the in-between. It was just all these fad diets with these crazy rules. And so what I know now is what healthy weight loss really looks like. And what you're looking at on this chart here is my actual weight loss progression over the course of a couple of years. Now, I will tell you, and hopefully you can see my cursor here. So I believe that this was my last stint at losing like 30 pounds and maybe less than that. But I think I lost like 20, 25 pounds initially. I think the last thing I did before my final journey here was the paleo diet. And so I took off a bit of weight, gained it all back, and then started on a low carb regimen, working with both my doctor and a coach that helped me really, start to look at what healthy weight loss looks like, which is what I want you to see here are these spikes up, right? Constantly gaining and losing, but over time trending down. This isn't sexy to go up and down, but what happened is I decided that I wasn't going to give up, that I was going to keep going, and working with a coach that could help see the good things I was doing, the good habits I was adding in, and to help me keep going. Well, what happened in working with that is this period right here, which I believe represents about an 18-month plateau. which I will tell you was a really big success for me because I did not lose and gain the weight back in a chunk. I actually pretty much, for me, this was a pretty steady plateau, staying at or around 200 pounds, between 190 and I think about 200 pounds during this time. So I had to learn to celebrate that as a win, but I also didn't believe I was done. So again, what I had really done was focused on a low carb diet, had really taken carbs out of the equation. And what I really needed to do was start figuring out what my fitness journey was going to look like and what my balanced eating journey was going to look like to get me where I wanted to go. And I'll go into that a little bit later. But once again, my weight loss journey is nothing but ups and downs and ups and downs. And this is even me in maintenance, hovering around that above and under that 150 mark over and over and over again. So the up and down is a part of our own natural body fluctuation. So plateaus, fluctuations, patience, no quick fix. We really have to get our mindsets out of that. And we really have to be okay with a lot of falling down and getting back up. We're going to have birthday parties. We're going to have celebrations. We're going to have vacations. We're going to have all of these things where we're probably not going to be eating pristinely all of the time. We're going to have some junk food. We're going to want to enjoy ourselves. But I can tell you that I now feel like I have a home base that I can come back to, that I feel balanced in my eating. I feel much better when I eat foods that are not nutrient dense. I don't feel as good anymore. So I have started to understand what balance looks like for me, but it took me a while to figure that out. The other thing I want to go back to on this slide is understanding systems make up your goals. So the thing about goal setting and weight goals and all of these different things is that they mean nothing if we don't have systems to get us there. And so the other thing that this weight chart shows you in my journey is that it was paying attention to those systems that made up those habits that made up my goals that made me successful. And I never had a weight goal. I never had anything that I was trying to do other than hit my macronutrient targets and really find a balance for me in terms of my eating and what made me feel good. And I had to rethink that, because what made me feel good at my starting weight and what makes me feel good here are two completely different things, I've realized. And so that was a big mind shift for me. And so we're gonna get into some of this. And so anyway, just to kind of recap the impact that deprivation has on our overeating and triggers is that first we diet, that caloric deficit to lose weight, and our metabolism slows down a bit. So because we're eating less, our metabolism is going to slow down. The body's going to recognize that it might not have enough energy and it's going to start taking it from other stores. So that's where our metabolism slows down. The body down regulates a bit. Sometimes that can lead to a plateau where we're unable to lose either through a lack of adherence, restriction, or another reason. In my case, that long plateau was because I could no longer eat at the caloric balance that had caused me to lose the weight. My body had shrunk, that my body actually needed less. So turns out I was eating around maintenance or a little bit over maintenance because I was no longer losing weight. I really needed to start putting myself into a further caloric deficit if I wanted to lose more weight. So then what happens? We get frustrated, we return to our old eating habits, we think something's wrong with us. And so then our body fat increases from the excess intake, right? And then we relapse. And then we're looking to restart the next diet. And here's the sad part about that is that we have even a slower metabolism than we did before. So those of us who have been dieting, yo-yo dieting, gaining and losing and gaining and losing, our metabolisms get slower and slower and slower. And so it becomes harder every time we try to lose weight. Myself very much included in that. So I just felt completely out of control, right? Like food's my jam, it's my thing. Like, how am I really going to conquer this stuff? And so I didn't trust myself. I began hiding my eating. I've told people if I ever write a book, it'll be called Eating Alone in Cars. It's pretty much what I did. So I realized if I wanted to look like I had it all together to the outside world, I had to go to, whether it was convenience stores or drive-through windows and eat it all in my car or stash it all away on my desk. It's what I had to do. And then I just became more, shameful with myself, and my self-talk became more negative. I felt like I was the only one struggling. I was like, I can't be the only one that's doing these things. I started putting the bad and good labels on food, and my relationship with food became very unhealthy. It became very codependent. I was really leaning on it like a really good friend. I was withdrawing, I was depressed, and it just wasn't a good place to be in. The 5 minutes that food made me feel good was fleeting, but I continued to eat for those 5 minutes as often as I could to get that feeling, to get that rush. What I didn't realize that was even though I was seeking everyone else for a solution, I needed to be my own solution. These fad diets and things weren't working for me because I wasn't pausing to address what wasn't going on. I was terrified to address what was going on. And it felt scary to start thinking about what was happening that I didn't want to acknowledge. And so I needed to understand that it wasn't my fault, that the deprivation that turned into overeating and developed these ongoing triggers for me were creating this cycle that I needed to get out of. So let's get into some of the principles in overcoming this. And let me clarify and reiterate the importance of no quick fixes here. So talking about this, this took me 20 plus years to kind of get into this way of eating for myself that I still to this day feel like I'm really working on all of these things. And at any given point, I can still be triggered, I can still binge, I can still overeat, and I can still have deprivation language in my head. But I'm going to walk you through some of the things that I believe have been key to me overcoming this cycle. So when it comes to deprivation, I think the first thing that was really important for me to do was to understand that all food should be open to me. No food should technically be off limits. So one of my first principles that I was not going to do a diet where anything was off limits, whether it was a eating window, time window, like intermittent fasting, the elimination of carbs or any whole food groups, or even junk food. It should not be off limits. The act of depriving ourselves and calling food good or bad creates a forbidden atmosphere, which I don't know about you guys. Are you guys troublemakers like me? That makes me want it more, right? And that's what led me to doing it in secret or in shame. So I first had to, which I know seems counterintuitive, right? You're going to tell me that the first thing to losing weight is being able to eat whatever I want. That's not exactly what I'm saying. But we have to understand that we do always have that choice. We do. It's open to us. The other thing I had to do was realize that the food isn't talking to me. I don't know about you, but when someone bakes fresh chocolate chip cookies, they do feel like they talk to us, do they not? Or that last piece of pizza that no one is grabbing, or the donuts that someone brings into the break room and you just know that they're there. It's really hard to ignore that, isn't it? But here's the thing. We're the ones talking to the food. We're the ones that need the food. Food is an inanimate object that does not talk to us, and it does not have control over us. It is just food. And the more we can recognize that, the more important that is. And I think even more importantly, getting back to the slide where I talked about where we used to have our own hunger cues, understanding, am I hungry in this moment that I have discovered that there are donuts in the break room? Am I truly hungry? I would say probably 90% of the time that I come across a donut in a break room, I'm not technically hungry. And so that is an internal battle that we have to learn how to navigate, because if we're not eating when we're if we're eating when we're not hungry, sorry, something else is going on. Then why are we eating? Why are we? And a lot of us just like to say donuts are yummy, and they are. But again, it does beg the question, if you are not hungry, then you're eating for some other reason. So if it's just that they're yummy and you're trying to lose weight or eat healthier, what is it that's so compelling that really has you reaching for that? What problem do you have now that you didn't have 5 minutes ago that these donuts are speaking to you? And here's the thing, I don't want to discredit that your body chemistry isn't helping any. Those dopamine centers in your brain really are firing away, trying to get you to eat all of that goodness. There is no doubt for that here. I'm going to check and make sure that we haven't had anyone join us here. So we have to know that our body, especially if we have been eating in a caloric deficit, that those dopamine centers are trying to protect us. They are trying, our bodies have not evolved to the society that we live in today. So your body really is trying to say, hey, let's survive the famine this winter. Let's eat 10 of these donuts. We're gonna survive. We have to put this on. So our body isn't helping any. And so that's where really we have to become more in tune with what's going on with us, because all that does is set ourselves up for what the intuitive eating group calls Last Supper eating, which is basically our overeating, right? So overcoming overeating is really about, I think one of the things that I've realized, so yes, screw fad diets, getting back to nutrition basics and balance. And again, to me, the key principles here are not necessarily about what we need to eliminate when it comes to overeating. But I think so much of our overeating is because we are not eating in a balanced way. So I think most of us do not get adequate lean protein in our diets. If you're like me, I'm really good at fat and carbs. I don't know about you guys, I'm really, really good at fat and carbs, but the lean protein, not so much. And so I think when we're thinking about overeating and doing things that don't deprive us, this is about addition, not subtraction. So how are we ensuring that we have at least 20 to 30 grams of protein at each meal, or 3 to 4 ounces, maybe 5 or 6 ounces if you're a dude or a little larger? You might need more protein. And I would add fiber, because that means you're eating more nutrient dense foods. That if we ensure that we have that included in our daily diet, we are going to seek out less. Our blood sugar is not going to be spiked as often, and we're not going to be seeking all of that food, because we're first ensuring that we have adequate protein and fiber in our diets. So I'm a big believer in that balanced macronutrients, whatever that is for you. Everyone can be a little bit different. Some people prefer on the lower carb side. Some people who are really active and energetic, active jobs or athletes need more carbs. Some people just operate better off of lower. So I think, again, really paying attention to ourselves, what we're really drawn to eat, is important. And I think most of us have been denying ourselves adequate protein and fiber in our diets. That keeps us in this cycle of wanting more. I can honestly tell you that I could go through a drive-through. Well, back in the day, it was the supersize. I could get a supersized value meal. I'd get a bag of treats at a convenience store or a drugstore, go in, and just the amount of carbs, sugar, and fat that I had going through my body just constantly spiked my blood sugar. And so I just wanted more and more and more, even though I could have been completely full from my eating. And so now just making sure that I have adequate protein and fiber in my diet instead of these huge meals that leave me wanting more, it allows me to pay better attention to my hunger cues and awareness, and also my feeling cues and awareness, which I'm going to talk a little bit more now, because I can honestly tell you that still to this day, I struggle with understanding what hungry and full really are. To me, full meant almost being in physical pain, or sometimes being in physical pain. So I am still really working on paying attention to my hunger cues and that awareness and making sure I'm eating for hunger. And that when I have feelings about other things, stress, anxiety, worry, those types of things, that I have other solutions that aren't food to them. And again, I'm going to talk about some more practical things you can do in terms of that, because if you're like me, then feelings, you start, me, who wants to talk about their feelings? I'd rather push them down with a burger and fries and a shake myself, but feelings are important if we want to understand why we're seeking food when we're not hungry. I think the other thing is that, getting back to my yummy point, well, I just want to eat that donut because it's yummy. Well, let's be honest. I freaking love food. I love it. It's on my mind all the time. And so there is a part of me also that I think I realized, and this is part of my own rules that I made for myself. This is nothing that no one else told me, but I want to enjoy what I'm eating. If I'm going to stick with something for life, I better look forward to it. I do not want to gnaw on a really bad piece of celery for the rest of my life and say that I'm happy. It's not going to happen. So I really believe each one of us should be in control of our meal plan. So if we know we need to get adequate protein and fiber in our diets, I go to great lengths to find out, can I make a great pizza that's loaded with lean protein and fiber, or tacos and ice cream? And what does Mexican food look like if I'm eating well for myself and really enjoying it? So I really invest my time now, instead of fretting about what I did or didn't do, looking for products that are healthy and ways to put together meals that are also meet my health objectives. So I'll do a plug right now for Yasso ice cream bars. I get nothing from them, but they're delicious, and I eat one every night at 9 p.m. They're made with Greek yogurt, and they're between 100 and 150 calories. And they're amazing. And they're an ice cream bar, so I'm not tempted to eat the whole pint of ice cream. They're amazing. I make pizza with Crustology pizza crust, crustology.com. It's an amazing macro-friendly pizza crust that you can build with lean protein on top. Just stay away from those fatty meats. Think turkey protein, lean ground beef seasoned with Italian seasoning. You can get 96% lean at Trader Joe's and a lot of other places. Onions, peppers, mushrooms. You can load it up with all this really great food and still have a great pizza to eat. And so for me, that was going to be key in any success that I had. Now, I earn those things by eating my veggies and making good egg white omelets with all goodness in them, and try to get my carbs from nutrient-dense sources. But I also leave room for a piece of toast every now and then. I've got a sandwich book for me, so I also still eat carbs. But making sure I put that protein first makes all the difference in how much or eliminating my overeating. I'm going to talk about a distraction ladder tool that I have as well. And then one last thing I'll talk about too on a subsequent size is us getting back in touch with serving sizes. There's nothing more depressing than seeing what a real serving size of cereal or peanut butter really looks like. And so we have to understand that we might be overeating and not even know it because we're eating in excess of the serving sizes. So let's go through some of these tools that I pointed to in terms of overcoming overeating. So we're looking at, isn't this sad, right? Like, so which piece of toast looks like the one you ate for breakfast? I know I would totally go for the one on the right. And so we're looking at more than 300 calories difference here, which over the course of the day is a lot. And so it's not even so much that this is a bad thing to eat. Quite often a piece of peanut butter on whole grain toast is not a bad choice. But there are a lot of other things that I could eat that might give me a bigger, I'm a big volume eater, if you couldn't tell, but I'd much rather have a bigger plate of, like an egg white omelet or something that I know is going to fill me up and keep me from overeating later, which if I eat this, I might still be feeling hungry. So a lot of learning to count macronutrients, which I don't want to get into that right now because that's a different workshop that I do. If you're interested, send me a message and I'll let you know the next time I'm doing the macros workshop. But super important that we start to know some of these things that, yeah, I can still enjoy peanut butter toast, but I need to make sure that I'm eating with more lean protein or other things that are going to help me feel sated and not seeking out what's next. So I think I'm just more strategic in my eating in terms of making sure I put my protein first and that I have all these other things I'm eating them with an adequate source of protein. So this is also, I work with a digital scale pretty regularly to make sure I'm good at getting adequate serving sizes and kind of understanding what they are. So I'm much better away from my own kitchen, knowing and understanding what a serving size looks like, and I can better pay attention to that. Most restaurants and eating out, they're going to give you bigger portion sizes. There's going to be a lot more oil, butter, and fats and a lot of things that you're eating. So just educating yourself on what a serving size is of all of the things that you eat is a super, super smart strategy against overeating. Here's the feelings wheel I came up with. And again, for those of you that are rolling your eyes at this, don't worry, I did too. But at some point along in my journey, and I was pretty well into my journey. Again, I don't even think that I think I'm going to be 7 years in October from when I started losing my weight to this last time here. Probably just within the last year was I really ready to start working with the emotional side of my eating. I had been kind of strategically doing it through protein and tactical things and all of that, but I'm just now to the point where I'm really working through some of the feelings. And one of the things I really acknowledged last year was that I just am so good at using food to not feel things. And I think especially for women or those of us that are in high stress jobs, we're trying to be a good mom, we're trying to be a good employee, we're trying to never let them see us sweat. We've got it all together. We've got everything figured out. And so what I realized I was doing is I didn't want anyone to see me crack. So I was using food as a coping mechanism and trying to stay strong. Food's what helped me stay strong to the outside world. And I realized that I was literally every emotion that I was having was being addressed by food. And that includes happy emotions too. So I was just trying to stay even keel in my life as much as possible. And I was really depriving myself of fully living. And so when I realized that I even had a hard time putting a name on feelings, so my first goal is learn to pause before an eating event, before a binge, overeating, when I'm there seeking whatever it is that I'm looking for. To pause is step one. 2 was then to try and put a name on what I was feeling. And I realized that I couldn't do it. I was so just void of feeling because I had just fed every emotion with food. I was really bad at it. So I literally had to pull out this feelings wheel, and I still do. And I start in the center and you pick one of those 7 and then you slowly go out. And I think what surprised me is how often I pick the fearful column and the happy column, that I'm eating for happy reasons as much as I am eating for fearful or angry or bad feelings. And surprise is kind of another one. And so anyway, I can honestly say that every time I take a look at this feelings wheel before I want to eat, I'm usually caught off guard sometimes with what I pick. So you can Google feelings wheel. You can see this. They even make like a pillow and some other things you can have around. It's just been a really great tool for me to try and get in touch with those feelings I've been buried for a long time. And then you can do something about it. The point being, then you can do something about that, the feeling that you're having, and not necessarily have to eat. Here, I will say one more thing about this too, is that if you're not ready to deal with some feelings, which has happened to me a couple of times, that's okay. Put a pin in it. In fact, sometimes I still eat. It's not to say this prevents me from eating every time. Sometimes I still eat, and I think that's okay because 1, we need to know nothing's off limits, right? And number 2, that for many of us, overeating is the only self-care we've ever really known. So So sometimes going back to it might be our solution for now, and then maybe next time we'll be ready to address it or acknowledge it. So for whatever that's worth to you guys. And then a more tactical thing that I do, and I actually enjoy this one, and I still do it from time to time, but this is what I call my distraction ladder. And so the key to the distraction ladder is to go ahead and write down a combination of either chore type activities or renewal type activities in the back of your planner, a list on your desk, wherever you want to have it, where it can be easily accessible to you, things that you can do when you find yourself seeking out something to eat when you're not hungry. And so I have this list of things. And again, it's very important that you have it written down, because if you try to figure this out when you're wanting to overeat, you often don't have enough time to make the list. So go ahead and make the list. It can be these things I have listed here. It can be all new things, but essentially, let's say that there are donuts in the break room and I'm trying to avoid them. I want to try and do some of these things if I can, whether I'm work, maybe you have some work tasks you can do, or maybe you have some home tasks. They're a combination of those things. You're going to work through the list to distract yourself and keep yourself busy. So I think if I go back to when I was a kid and we were playing with friends and didn't come home until the streetlights came on, we were just always occupied. We were always having so much fun that it's like, to me, one of those other tools can be just staying occupied throughout the day. So I just think that is an important thing. So we're really tackling this through some tactical things, practical things we can do, some more emotional side of things, and then also the skills in terms of understanding what serving sizes are, putting protein first, making sure you're getting adequate protein, and combating in a multitude of ways, because overeating is complex. And some of you might have, some of these things might resonate with some of you, might not have all of these things, and you might just need to work on the serving sizes and putting protein first. Maybe you don't need to go down the emotional path. That's okay too. So let's talk about triggers, because this is the moment where we kind of have a decision to make. Like, we get a trigger, right? And so then what's next? Am I gonna succumb to the trigger and overeat or not? But I do believe that triggers can be somewhat controlled if we simply limit our feelings of deprivation. So the simple act of knowing that anything is available to you and then talking through it before you act can help in some circumstances. Although for people like me, with this being such a deep-seated habit, that took me some time. That wasn't as automatic for me. I know there's some other people that by simply pausing and doing that, it can help them. And so that really is the key, is I think for some of us, it just becomes mindless. Like, it's like, my hand just fell into the bag of chips and salsa, and before I knew it, the basket was gone, right? Like, sometimes it's just so mindless that we're not even thinking about it. So even a simple pause before eating when you're triggered by that, again, the chips and salsa that just land at the table, it's like, why was I fine 2 seconds ago, and how come I'm not okay now? So I think it's just one of those things to really talk through. Like I say, nostalgia on here can be a reason for a trigger too, because cereal is actually a trigger for me. And I think cereal is a trigger for me because of my childhood. I was somewhat of a latchkey kid. So, coming home and making my own dinner or lunch or something from school, a lot of times that was cereal. And so I think about cereal and watching cartoons and things like that to this day. Sitting down with a huge bowl of cereal is like super appealing for me. So it's one of those things that I just have to recognize that and realize, is that really what I need now? So just again, that naming piece of it, pausing beforehand, kind of acknowledging it, and then understanding, is food the real solution to what you need right now? Is that actually going to solve what you're seeking? But you have to be able to name it before you can solve it. So just working through that, whether it's through feeling cues or hunger cues, I think it's just something that we have to slowly become aware of. And I will say, none of this is fixed first off. This is going to take practice. It's like yoga. This is a practice. These are things you need to explore. And this is why I think for me, I had to work with coaches to really get through some of this, because I also had to get some of my own bullshit out of my head. I had to rewrite my own rules. I had to know when to kind of push back on my coaches too and be like, hey, this is best for me. I know you're saying I need to do all of these things, but at the same time, I needed to create some of my own rules. And that's what I try to do for my clients, is really help them understand, are there things you need to eliminate from your diet or not? Only you can decide if that's best for you or if it will cause you to overeat it later. So like my cereal example, the rule, and this is not written in stone, but my general rule is I just don't have cereal at home. It doesn't serve me. I don't eat it in an appropriate manner, so I don't have it at home. But we're out at a hotel or we're on vacation or something like that, and I want to eat cereal. I eat cereal. I enjoy it. And I give myself that time, and I find that I really appreciate it then. I don't abuse it. I really just enjoy it in the moment. And I think about being a kid and watching cartoons after school. And it's a much healthier relationship that I have with cereal now. Whereas if I had it at home and ate it all the time, it loses its meaning to me. But again, I want you to be empowered to find these solutions for you, because all we really need is some sanity. I think all of these diets, all of these ways of getting ourselves into a caloric deficit are just completely unnecessary. I think we need balance. I think we need to understand what we really need. And for those of us that feel like we're a little out of control with food, whether it's deprivation, overeating, triggers, or all three of those in an endless cycle, we've got to start understanding what makes us feel good. So my parting thoughts for you today are to really start to inventory what food makes you feel good, not just in the moment, but what gives you energy later in the day is also yummy and healthy. So I sometimes think about it this way. Let's take the donut in the break room example. So before that donut, I might say, okay, why do I need this now? And I was fine 2 minutes ago. Like, what's going to happen? And how am I going to feel in 5 minutes if I eat this? How am I going to feel in an hour if I eat this? And how am I going to feel at the end of the day if I eat this? Just take in a little bit of an inventory and continue to make that list for yourself. What truly makes you feel good? Because 265-pound Jen would have said, yes, 10 donuts in the break room would make me feel good right now because I need to push down all this stress and all these things I'm feeling. But Jen today, Jen talking to you here now, understands that that's not what's going to make me feel good in an hour, and it's not going to make me feel good at the end of the day. I'm going to look back and have regret, feel that shame, and understand why I'm not in control. So that's super important. If you don't know where to start on the feelings piece, start to journal. Start pick maybe 1, 2, or 3 things you learned today. No more than that. That's the other thing, is we all try to do this stuff all at once and it never works. Start using some of what we discussed today to explore your feelings in connection to food. Did any of this resonate with you and why? Write about that a little bit and start to explore maybe what you could do, because part of what's gotten us into trouble is this all or nothing thinking that I have to change everything that I'm doing, otherwise it's not worth doing. And I think we have to acknowledge that it's the little unsexy, the patience, the consistency, and building those good habits slowly that lead to long-term change. And we've got to get this fastness out of our head. So again, I'm 7 years into this journey. I'm still figuring things out. Well, that's after my 20 years of struggle. But, and that's not to discourage you. In fact, I hope what I've been through gives you hope as well, because there is a way out and there is a way to overcome these things and find balance again. And part of that is through finding food you love and understanding how you can make that healthier. How do you make it more protein packed? How do you get more fiber in it? And how that alone is going to keep you from overeating the way that you normally do. So again, protein first principle. If I had any name to my diet, it would be that: protein first. So yes, that takes me to, are you getting adequate protein each day? This deficit alone can be a big reason that we overeat the carbs and fat. So if there's something you want to try, just pay attention this next day or two. to whether or not you're getting adequate protein each day. Are you getting 20 to 30 grams of protein? You would know that if you actually put your food on a digital scale. So maybe brush off the digital scale if you have one. Shoot for 3 or 4 ounces of protein per meal. Or if you're a dude, 5 or 6 ounces, or if you're a larger human being, that alone can change and help eliminate overeating. So again, it's not eliminating certain things, it's adding good stuff, addition, not subtraction. And the other thing I would guide you on is just stop looking for fads to fix what's wrong. You are the solution. You need to believe in yourself. You need to have the confidence. That's the number one difference between 265-pound Jen and Jen talking to you here today, is that I have just decided that I am strong and I'm a badass and I can figure this out. And I'm done listening to other people. I'm done, well, again, I did listen to my coaches a little bit. So they had a big hand in helping me, but they helped me build my journey. And that's what I want to help other people do now. So if you aren't overeating for hunger, you have to begin to understand why you are and how you can combat that. So I hope this has given you some thoughts on how you can do that. If you want a copy of this presentation, I'm happy to send it to you. If you want to email me at jen@51bridges.com. I also encourage you to find me on Facebook and Instagram. 51 Bridges Nutrition is my handle for the business coaching side of things. And Gen X Journey, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram as well. And there I have a blog and kind of dialogue, or yeah, what am I trying to say? I document, that's the word I'm looking for. I document my own journey, which started as I was nearing the 100 pounds lost mark, and I had decided to start CrossFit and try to get my first pull up. So there's some fun blog entries there and some posts that I do just to encourage individuals and take people along on my own individual journey, which continues from week to week. But anyway, I really appreciate you joining me today. This has been a lot of fun. And again, I look forward to hearing from a lot of you if you have any questions or have some follow-up to all of this. So take care, everybody.